So, here we are. Voltron Season 7 premiered last week, and as you all probably know if you're watching this video, it was kind of a crap show. Voltron honestly has always had issues, I feel like, with characterization, particularly when it comes to LGBT characterization, but this season, man, just really went with that and ran with it. There are two main things specifically I want to talk about in this video when it comes to Voltron and queerbaiting and the bury your gays trope. And those things are Keith and Lance and Shiro and Adam. Now going into season 7, the big hyped thing was meeting Adam, who was Shiro's boyfriend before he left. We had never gotten any mention of Adam before or any hint of Shiro being gay or anything like that. So of course people were so excited to not only see a confirmed gay character on the show, but also see Shiro, who is disabled, Asian, and someone who just really had a hard time on this show, now get to be in hopefully a loving relationship, and we get to see more of him actually being happy after all of the crap that he's been through. And there is no denying that this Adam and Shiro relationship was built up a ton by DreamWorks and the writers. There was a huge announcement about Adam, first of all, at, I believe it was like right before San Diego Comic-Con or right after, and they specifically said, like, this is Shiro's boyfriend from before when he left. So it wasn't, they weren't trying to hide anything. They were saying, hey, we're gonna have LGBT characters on the show. We've been promising you them for a while, and now we're finally getting around to it. And everyone was super excited online. I mean, everywhere you looked, people who had been not particularly pleased with the show for the way they had been treating potential LGBT relationships was so excited to see now Adam and Shiro be in a healthy, loving relationship. And I personally too was super excited. Adam looked super cute, and it was just going to be awesome to see Shiro, what we assumed was reunite with Adam and maybe have, you know, a heart-to-heart and just have someone who knew him from before and was like, buddy, I know like your deepest, darkest secrets, I know your fears, and I love you for them all. And this was no surprise. They knew what they were doing by announcing this character and giving such a big thing about his relation to Shiro beforehand. They knew that this was going to drum up a ton of buzz for season 7, and they knew that they, I think, had been losing some viewers with just the way they were doing their characterization, the way they were kind of saying things were going to happen that weren't happening. I think this was what they decided would be the thing to get everyone back in and back on kind of like the Voltron rocks train, you know? And there was a ton about Adam building up to it. They tweeted about it. They tagged about it. If you went on Netflix to watch season 7, there was even a picture of Shiro and Adam like together in a very coupley looking, you know, like it was very obvious that these two were going to be like the main LGBT ship, and aren't we so awesome because we gave you LGBT representation. And I remember like maybe 2 days before the season premiered, someone on Tumblr was like, wouldn't it be terrible if Adam died? And everyone was like, yeah, but they're not gonna do that to us. That's the bury your gays trope. After what the 100 pulled, every screenwriter and showrunner knows not to do that, right? No, it turns out no. Adam was instantaneously killed, and all we really saw of him was in flashbacks. And not only that, but I've seen a lot of people point out that unless they had told us that Adam and Shiro were in a relationship, you wouldn't have picked that up at all. So it's not enough to say like, hey, we're gonna have this LGBT, you know, representation if it's not actually LGBT representation. Unless you had read the press release, you wouldn't have known, I don't think, that Adam and Shiro were supposed to be in a romantic relationship before. And I've seen proof of this because people have been posting, talking to their younger siblings who the show is, like the age that the show is aimed at, you know, the 8-year-olds, the 9-year-olds, the 10-year-olds. And they're always like, hey, did you get the idea that Adam and Shiro were in a relationship? And the kids unanimously are always like, no, I thought like they were just roommates or like really good friends. And it's like, if this is what you want to start showing from a young age is LGBT rep and showing that this is a normal thing, this is a thing you see in life, and it's not just always about the straight couples and all that, don't be subtle about it. Show these kids that they love each other. Show that they're in a relationship. Show that they are just like every other couple and there's nothing wrong about being LGBT. And it frustrates me even more too because the way they did it was just they showed them in flashbacks, Great, pat yourself on the back. Then we find out he died, and there's like a 3 second thing of Shiro just like holding his hand up to Adam's picture and being like, yeah. And someone pointed out like there was no way that's how you would react if the love of your life you found out died. Even if you had like a possibility that, yeah, it's war, like there's a good chance he's gonna die. There's no way you're still like, after finding out, not gonna completely break down and sob. And someone else pointed out on Tumblr, very, very good point, that even if it was like not your boyfriend, like your best friend or someone you were super close to, you wouldn't break down and cry for them too. Like you'd just be like, yeah, like this is our goodbye. I can't even describe how arrogant it is on the part of the Voltron writers and show creators to put out this release that they're having a gay character, say themselves that Shiro's gay, not even make it canon in the show. Like Shiro can't say like me and my friend were talking about this. How great would it have been if Lance just went up to Shiro and was like, hey, Alora's hot, isn't she? And Shiro just like deadpans into the camera and is like, I'm gay, Lance. Like how simple and funny would that have been? Like you don't have to make it this huge big thing, but admit it in the, like, what about the kids who don't know to look at the press releases, who don't go on Tumblr? Like how are they supposed to them Shiro's not gay. They don't know. They don't know. So it's not enough. Like it annoys me that the writers and the creators did this, patted themselves on the back and said, wow, we have such great representation, when really you did nothing. Like it doesn't matter because it was all off screen and off the show. Like it might as well not even be canon for what you see on the show itself. And it's just so frustrating. And I know people say it's not about the ships, but it is in this case. When your LGBT ships constantly have tragedy and your straight couples are off happy, dandy, nothing bad happening to them. There's a choice there, a conscious choice to show who you think deserves to have a happy relationship and who you think doesn't have to struggle. And you could say, yeah, maybe they did this just because Shiro's had a lot of struggle on the show in general. Shiro is the confirmed gay character. So what does that now say too? That he's the one that struggled the most out of everything. Like it just does not make sense. And that also leads into what I want to talk about with Keith and Lance. Now, I do like Keith and Lance, I'll say that right away. So obviously I was disappointed in this season. However, taking that away from it, I just think it's bad characterization this season for both Lance and Keith. So with Lance specifically, we now have this thing that Alora may have feelings, may be like reciprocating these feelings he's had for him, when there was no hint at all. Like there was nothing between point A, when she would roll her eyes and just want his flirting to be gone, and point B, when now she's blushing at him. There's no moment, like we could have, and they could have done something, is what bugs me. Like I don't really like Alora and Lance together, but I would have been fine with it had it been built up a bit more naturally. Like if there was that scene that we're all begging for where anyone just talks to Lance and he admits how insecure he is and how he second guesses every movement and every choice he makes, and if someone was just like, it's okay, like comforts him, you know? Like if that had been with Alora, I might have been more fine with it. But there's literally nothing changed to suddenly have her be like, ooh, he's kind of cute. And it's also a terrible message to send to the audience that if you are persistent enough, you can wear a girl down into liking you and change her mind after she specifically says she does not like you many times. And again, I get feelings can change. You can notice that a person's mature or very different than what you thought they were originally when you didn't like them, but that didn't happen here. Lance never stopped flirting with Alora, and I think it would be different had we seen him like start to mature and flirt with her less, or if we had seen him flirt with like Hunk, Keith, Shiro, like just see that Alora realizes, oh, that's just his personality, he's like a charismatic person, and then that would also tie in hand where she could have been like, oh, like he admits that he's unsure to her, and she sees like, oh, this is what he's really like she sees like a deeper side of him. I mean, we just never see a deep side of Lance in general, which makes me so sad because you know he has all these fears and insecurities, and he's constantly just made the butt of the joke. He's constantly Keith questioned his sharpshooter skills and was like, don't miss, and not in like a joking way. Keith, okay, me and my friend were also talking about this. Keith was an asshole this season. Like, I don't know what happened to him. The camaraderie that Lance and Keith had built up, I don't know if it's just like they just are not putting Lance and Keith together, and they've decided that, so they want to ruin the relationship completely. So, like, even the people who do like them are like, yeah, there's no chance they're getting together. Because the way he treated Lance this season is just like, Keith has always been, and me and my friend said this, he's always been a grumpy, moody butthole. But this season, the things he said were just straight up mean. Like, he was picking on Lance. He was saying he didn't want to be stuck with him for an eternity. Like, he was just an asshole. And there's a difference, again, between being moody and broody and grumpy and not wanting to talk to people. There was a huge difference between the Keith who was smiling and teasing Lance about his sharpshooter skills and was like, you're joking, right? And a Keith who was saying, I don't want to be stuck with you for the rest of eternity, and asking him not to miss on his shot. Like, that is just two different Keiths to me, and the fact that he's supposed to be more mature and more serious now, like, he would leave all that behind. Like, he would be, if you're not even going to put Lance and Keith together, fine. But you don't have to make them enemies. Like, you could make them good friends, and that would be fine. Like, I don't understand where this choice comes from, and that, like, we have to ruin kind of every fanon thing that the show likes, while, and this is my biggest problem, if you don't want to put them together, that's fine, like I said, but stop promoting it and kind of hinting that you're gonna do it. Stop with this tease of like, oh, maybe next season. Stop with putting Keith and Lance in photos together alone on the Netflix page. Stop with tagging videos as Clans. And I'm not talking about like the actors, because obviously like the actors, if Jeremy Shada gets a question about Clans, like, I don't really care what he says. He's not going to be like, no, it's not going to happen, because he doesn't want to offend those fans. I'm talking about the creators, the writers. Stop being like, oh, our LGBT rep is coming. Like, I guarantee you, Keith and Lance could not end up together at the end of the show, and the writers would still be like, well, maybe in the future, you never know. Like, they just want to cling to what they know is bringing in a lot of their audience, and I think that's just terrible. That is queerbaiting. Plain and simple. What they did with Adam and Shiro, queerbaiting. What they have been doing with Keith and Lance for a while now is queerbaiting. It's knowing that people are invested and really interested in this and using that to promote your show in a main way, and then when it doesn't come to fruition, being like, well, we didn't really promise you that. Like, we kind of hinted at it, but it was never explicitly said, so you can't really get mad at us. I am so disappointed and done with this show. I'm glad there's one more season left. Like, I was sad originally when I was like, oh, the show's ending already, but I think it's time. It's just overstayed its welcome. And like I said, people will say all day it's not about the ships, it's about the story, and you're just mad because like your ship didn't get together. It's not just that. It's more than that, because if there was zero hint that this was going to happen, if they hadn't built up Adam and Shiro so much, if they were just like, hey, there's this new character, Adam, coming out, and you find out later that like, oh, they're in a relationship, he died, still bury your gays trope, but it's not as much queer baiting. But they couldn't have done that, because then no one would have realized that he was Shiro's boyfriend. Everyone would have been like, oh, Shiro's friend died, that's so sad. And that, plain and simple, is the issue with this show. They know what gets them attention, and I think this is hopefully going to backfire in a big way, but like I said, it's not. There's one more season left, so it's not really going to affect them or hurt them all that much. And I think the most important thing to say to wrap this all up and to take away from this is, to all the LGBT fans of the show, especially the younger ones, I want you to know sincerely that this is not your legacy. So often in TV shows we see being LGBT, being a person of LGBT, being equated with death and misery and tragedy. And that's just not true. Your life can and will be filled with joy, with love, with happiness, with positivity. And for something like this to make you feel like you are not worthy, like you are not deserving of that love and happiness, is absolute bullshit on their part, because you are 110%. But that's just mainly where my head is at when it comes to this show right now. I'm disappointed, I'm hurt, especially when you think about that this is a show aimed at younger kids. What message is this sending kids who may be struggling with their identity right now, who may be struggling with if they identify as LGBT? What message is this showing them for their future? That it's a future of unhappiness and suffering, and that is just wrong. So I am just so disappointed in this season, in the show, in the creators, the writers. They knew exactly what they were doing in doing this. Now they're trying to hide behind the fact that they didn't know, that they really didn't mean to show, you know, like, we're kind of guessing that Adam and Shiro were going to get proposed. Sorry that we insinuated that and you just kind of ran with it. And I just think it's complete. It's a mess. So if you have any thoughts about the new season, about Voltron in general, please feel free to leave your thoughts about them down below in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!